Hi, my name is Alysa Diebolt and I am a fused glass artist. I live in East Point and I'm also a board member for the Anton Art Center. I'm so excited to be featured as an artist spotlight for Super Sad Art Day 2021. So fused glass is the process of melting glass together in a kiln. So for my fused glass projects, everything that I make starts with a piece of 1/4-inch thick clear base glass. So you just saw me bring in a sheet that I buy. It is 2 foot by 4 foot long, so it's the largest size that you can buy, and I buy them a crate at a time. It usually has between 20 and 30 pieces in the glass crate and weighs several thousand pounds. So the first tool we're going to talk about is a glass cutter. So glass is a really tough material, but the one thing that's definitely tougher than glass I can use to cut it and cut it intentionally into the shape or angles or curves that you're looking for is diamond. So all of the glass cutters that glass artists use, whether they're fused glass artists like me or stained glass artists like my dad, they are using a diamond blade on the end of the handle. So we're going to snap it. And that's it. That one little cut is going to be able to cut this. It's a 12-inch slice off this piece of glass. So this is a pretty cool trick. Not everyone likes to do this, but I think it's pretty fun. I think it shows a level of control and understanding of working with glass, especially really thick glass like I use. So the line is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this glass towards me. I can see the line that I cut. And real quick here, I'm going to lift up and snap down, and the glass should break right where I cut it. Just like that. So now this 12-inch by 24-inch rectangle, I am going to cut down to a 12-inch square. I'm going to do the same thing. Snap. Pretty fun, I think. All right, I'm gonna move this big sheet out of the way. I'm not using it, and it's just gonna be in my way. So this is one of the stands that I was talking about. They come in circles, they come in rectangles. I would call this a diamond. So I buy all of these stands stock from the supplier. I buy a ton of them at a time, and then I just make the glass to fit the stand so I know the angles and all that, and then I can decorate it basically however I want. And then that is the finished piece with the intention of it's more of an art piece and less of a functional piece. So I know poppies are super popular, so we're gonna do that. Sometimes these stickers leave a little bit of residue. So the residue can actually cause problems in the kiln. The Sharpie does not, but sticker, adhesive, and residue can. So again, it's going to be on an angle. It's going to be on that slant. So when I make my poppy pieces, which I'm kind of known for, I guess, I like to do a blue sky. So the cool thing about transparent glass is it might be really, really impossibly difficult for you guys to see, but I can see through the glass and see how long this needs to be. So I don't, you know, the way I function is I know that my glass is 12 inches. Cool, great. But I also know, like, you can eyeball this and it'll still turn out pretty great. So one of the cool things about fused glass is it's pretty forgiving, pretty flexible. So I know that that fits up absolutely perfectly. So that is great. I think I'm gonna try to use this piece so I'm being more efficient with my glass usage. So I love doing a super bright blue for the sky, a yellow for sunshine, and then some green for the grass. And then I'll show you how I make my poppies and how it all comes together in this awesome scene that is just very happy. So, new tool. This one will be better. So these are called grozers. Grozers are basically a plier, but you'll see that this part is flat on the inside and then this is curved. So what you do with a grozer is I can see my line here. I do my flat part on top, right up to my line, and then I basically just push my elbow down. Because this is really thin, it's gonna break off in a lot of pieces because it doesn't have the like structural to come off in one nice flat piece. Sometimes that's pretty annoying, but I do save all of these little pieces that I'm creating. I do save them all, and you'll see how I use them later on in this project. So that was over here. So how much green do we want? Because this piece has some funkiness to it, so cool. So we actually only need to chop off this little corner, so we're going to go back in with the grozers. Let's trim up this green. So yeah, I really like to use that clear base glass as like my template because I know that, you know, even if it is a 12-inch square, maybe it's like a 12-inch square plus just like the tiniest little bit that's going to be really annoying throughout this process. So what I like to do is just match my decorative glass, the colored sheet glass, to the clear because then I know it's going to fit. So I'm going to do this one a little differently. I'm not going to just bash it with my knuckles so then it snaps, so that I can show you the other tool that I use all the time. Okay, so I have my line. These are called running pliers. Running pliers are also basically pliers. They do have little silicone protectors because metal on glass sometimes is a little too aggressive, so they use these little silicone protectors. So these, the shape of, there is some curve to the inside, but this one you go parallel with your line instead of the grozers where you go perpendicular. You just line up about the middle of the pliers with your line and you just squeeze them together and it just flings down basically. And then this little bit, because my glass was shaped a little funky, I'll take the grozers and follow up And even though that is like super not perfect, you won't even be able to tell, which is pretty neat. So we're gonna flip this. So we've got grass, we've got sunshine, and we've got blue skies. Poppies come in all sorts of different colors, but I have found that my customers only like lipstick red poppies. So that is the title of this glass. Glass colors are not nearly as fun as like paint chip colors where they come in like really fun names or like the names of crayons and markers and stuff. Glass is pretty much like cobalt blue, pale amber, green, but the red is lipstick red. So that one's fun. So what I do from these weird strips, and it doesn't really matter that this broke terribly, is I make really rough squares, triangles, rectangles, whatever. So these are called mosaic nippers, and they're really popular for mosaics. You can actually get some even at like the hardware store because folks use them for ceramic tiles too. So poppies are pretty simple. Let me make sure you can see. Yep. Try to get them into the container, sometimes they don't. So now we kind of compose the piece. So again, we see that cross in the middle, that X, so we want to make sure to not do the entire design based off that center. And I like to do a big one, kind of like largish. So I like to do odd numbers. I love a 5 for a stand piece of this size. For some of my smaller pieces, I'll only do 3, but I love a 5 for this piece. So the center of a poppy is typically black and kind of speckly a little bit. So what I do, so I know I like these 5 poppy flowers. I just do a little bit of liquid glue. Make sure it's kind of organic shaped and makes sense for the size of the flowers, so I made that big one a little bit bigger. So this is called Frit. We're gonna get deeper into what Frit is in a second, but I don't want this glue to dry. Oops. So I dump off the extra. It's exactly like glitter, basically, where you just want it where the glue is. So we've got our big one, our large one, large, medium, little guy. So now some of what they call accessory glass. Accessory glass is just small stuff, basically. This is stuff that I do have to buy. It comes in these long, skinny tubes. So these are called noodle and stringer. Noodle is very similar to fettuccine, and stringer is very similar to angel hair pasta. You can kind of see the size difference there. So my iconic look is, so I line up my diamond, make sure that the top point matches the bottom point pretty well. Make sure my base is straight. So I don't want to go off the edge, and I do want the top of the noodle just a hair underneath the poppy flower. These are super thin, so you can totally pop them with your hands. You don't need any special tools or anything. They don't need to come all the way down. It's a little bit abstract. You know, this is a field, you know. I do try to make sure that all of the ends don't end at the same point because I just think it looks better. Oops. All right, that's cool. I save all the little bits and pieces like that one in jars and use them for future projects. So I've got all my stems for the poppies. I'm gonna put the extra one away. So I save this. I don't, I like to keep all my half pieces somewhere else, not in my main drawer. So then these are, I just use as like grass or like leaves and greenery in these scenes. So you don't have to measure nearly as much. You can pop these with your hands also. Kind of try to get them like a little bit up and down, but not as specific because it's kind of like they're kind of like the stems from the bottom of the poppies, but not exactly. It's okay that they're rolling around because we will be adding a lot of other glass that will help stabilize them. So we're gonna put away the stringer. So now I'm gonna get some Frit. Frit is broken up glass. It comes in 3 different sizes. So to show you what Frit is, I'm gonna dump out a couple different kinds. So we won't be using it for this piece, but it'll show you. So this is dark gray, coarse. So you can see it's like kind of like small pebbles a little bit. This is dark gray medium. So it's like really fine. It's like bigger than sand, but smaller than pebbles. And then this is fine. And what I did here is there's actually a bunch of different grays mixed together, so it's gonna come out as the really pale gray because the darker is a little bit further down, but we're really just trying to show you the size. So fine is absolutely like sand. So I love coarse Frit. I just think it adds a lot. So I'm going to be using a pale blue. So this is cobalt, so I'm going to be using pale blue. And you'd think you wouldn't see it, but what ends up happening is it almost very similar to watercolor. It kind of waters down the color a little. And I do add it to the yellow. Sometimes I don't like dumping coarse directly on because it can be a little volatile. Because then it just adds different variations, because sometimes this glass can be a little boring because it's just one flat color, it's super consistent, nothing's too crazy about it. So this green, so I used like a normal Kelly green, so I'm going to add some olive green, and it's also transparent. I'm not going to get it way up into the sky and share it all around like I did the others, but just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then yellow. So it's a brighter shade. So this is a pale amber, and this is like a true yellow transparent. So this will make pops of like brighter spots, kind of. And because Frit is not like little circles, it's not any real specific shape. You know, sometimes you can discern a rectangle or a triangle out of it, but it's not as structured. They kind of just end up looking like little blobs, which is kind of nice. So it's much more organic looking. And then my most favorite thing to do is to add clear. Now, what clear does, if you've ever seen like church glass windows, where it kind of just looks like a little bit speckly, or it's called mottled, or it looks like watercolor, especially if you like do a little spritz of water from like a spray bottle. It does that, and it's just the coolest feature. So that was a layer of coarse Frit. Now we're going to add some medium. So this is where you can get a little bit funky because it's so much less concentrated, so it just adds a lot of dimension. So this is teal transparent. Deep aqua, which is kind of similar to the teal. The teal has a little bit more green in it. So when these things start rolling around like that, I usually just find a piece or two of Frit to help keep it in space. Now here, so when you see poppies, especially, you know, that Wizard of Oz look, it's always like a field of poppies. So what I like to come in and do is this is a red mix. It has some dark red and some of that lipstick red. So I really like to drop that all over a bit haphazardly. And like I said, poppies come in a lot of different colors, so I like to add in some orange. And then a little bit of opal lime because of all the little petals and leaves that are with all of the poppies that we kind of sprinkled out everywhere. So the only real cleanup that I like to do is I like to make sure that the poppies don't have any of that Frit on it, because I think it can look a little funky sometimes. So I make sure that there's no like blues or the red even. Sometimes it can be tricky to get it out of that center. So it looks like everything is good to go.